Mulder ironically loses his memory after taking part in a dangerous procedure to recover his memories?
Convoluted though it may be, he finds himself at the center of a murder investigation.
This is not happening.
I told him about your condition. You don't have to speak to them if you don't want to.
You mean not without my attorney present?
Mulder, I refuse to believe that you had any part in this.
I had those people's blood on my shirt, Scully. I was missing for 2 days. I have no recollection of my actions during those 2 days. There were 2 rounds discharged from my gun. I had the keys to this house, the keys to their car. Do the words Orenthal James Simpson mean anything to you?
How you feeling, Agent Mulder?
I'm a little confused.
Your partner here says that you're suffering from some kind of a seizure. But you had one right here in the yard. What brought you to this house, Agent Mulder?
I don't know. I think I may have come here as a kid.
You think?
Well, my parents had a summer house in Quanticook, so
But you don't know anything about David or Amy Cassandra, the victims.
I don't ever remember meeting them, no.
So what you're saying then is, first time you saw them is when you walked into this house, using their keys, and you found them there on the floor.
That's what I'm saying.
We got plenty of prints in that house. Some with blood on them. Now we're gonna run those prints, Agent Mulder. Is that the story you want to stick with?
For now.
Would you like to come down to the station and elaborate on that statement?
Agent Mulder's not going anywhere but to a hospital.
Okay. But we're all going down there together. Agent Mulder, I'd like you to ride with us.
Welcome back, everybody, to This Is Not Happening, another X-Files podcast with me, Andrew, and as always, joined by my good friend, Mike. Mike, how are you doing today? Let's just move right along from that question.
A title that has not been more appropriate than today. Yes,
we will not talk about anything political today because it just so happens we recorded this episode the day after a certain big event politically in a certain first world country, and it didn't go the way everybody thought, or a lot of people thought it might.
Cheers.
Went the way a lot of people thought it might, but some people disappointed, other people not as disappointed. It's not worth talking about because it really it's not X-Files.
Not X-Files. We're here to talk about...
We talk about things X-Files.
Demons today, Andrew.
Demons. How are you with demons generally?
Well, I'm very friendly with my inner demons, and...
Excellent.
Mulder seems to have some of his own that he needs to excise.
He does. Yeah, we haven't thought about the old memory recovery subplot for Mulder in a long time. But I guess R.W. Goodwin has been thinking about it because this one was written by him. The only episode he'll ever write. Directed by Kim Manners. So there's a nice pairing off here.
Yeah.
Usually it's R.W. who does the directing of the season finales, but in this case, comes in as a writer.
Yeah.
Apparently it took him 6 weeks to craft this one based around the idea of the memory recovery through a
hole in the head
stimulation therapy. Must have been topical at the time.
I'm still confused by it, but whatever.
You know what it reminds me of? And this is almost final thoughts-ish, but I will just get it out of the way at the beginning. It reminds me of Little Green Men as a character study of an episode, rather than anything
substantial,
thick for a plot. It's... Would you even call this mythology, this episode?
It's tough. It toes the line, but you don't really learn anything other than you get confirmation that Mama Mulder was banging CSM.
I mean, do you? She says she flat out denies it.
Yeah, but they pretty much stick with it in terms of I don't know. We'll find out later in the show. Not today's show. The show. Whether or not that's true.
Exactly. Will not be. Maybe they're just tweaking. They're tantalizing the idea here that there was a little love affair.
In terms of mythology or monster of the week, it too sits on that line of not really either, because nothing of substance really happens in this episode. To warrant it being a monster of the week, outside it being, something spooky happened to Mulder. Let's find out what the answer is. And then there's no mythology element that really moves the story forward. So, yeah.
Well, shall we be driven by our personal demons? Is it time?
Let's excise the shit out of this.
Mike, we open with a flash, a pulsating red flashing in and out of a black background. What the heck are we looking at? Shortly, a grainy, in and out of focus image of a young girl resolves, looking directly at the camera. Fox, she says, wake up. It's Samantha. A present-day Mulder awakens, but Samantha cautions him to be quiet. They'll hear you. Mulder groggily joins her at the edge of the loft bedroom. He sees the younger version himself there as well. Looking below, they see a woman on the sofa, her head in her hands. A young Mrs. Mulder? A man paces beside her. Is this Mr. Mulder? Trying to convince her of something. She's crying. Samantha's afraid. The camera zooms in into Mulder's eye, the pulsing reaching a fever pitch, and then darkness as the camera pans back from Mulder's sweaty face. He rolls up from where he's lying. A bedroom. Mark Snow's music is mysterious as he rubs his hands over his shirt. Blood. The camera cuts to another bedroom in darkness. Digital clock reads 4:50 as the phone rings. A light is turned on, and a groggy Scully answers.
Hello?
Scully.
Mulder, what time is it?
I don't know.
It's almost 5 a.m. Is something wrong?
I think so.
Where are you?
I think I'm in a motel room in Providence, but...
Where?
Rhode Island.
What are you doing there?
I don't know. There's blood all over me.
Are you hurt, Mulder?
I don't think so. I don't think it's my blood.
Credits.
Scooby-Doo-Babba-Doo-Boo-Doo.
Banger of an opening there, right?
Yeah. It's interesting. I like the effect they use to open the episode.
Yeah.
I like that kind of flashing, this is a synapse in your brain kind of recalling this information. I do like what they're doing here.
It's a weird camera angle they've got too, or at least the lens is very wide angle, so it has a little bit of fisheye to it. It's definitely meant to be first person freaky, and it succeeds. It's evocative.
Yeah. And we get just enough. You know, I mean, right off the bat, you're like, okay, a mystery is going to be unraveled here from the past. And yeah. And then Mulder wakes up with blood on his shirt. So,
Can't be good. Well, after the credits, Scully is driving in Providence, Rhode Island. It's April 12th, 6:15 a.m. So, Mike.
Oh, no.
Before we get too far in, worth doing a little math here.
Okay.
She got the call from Mulder, 4:50. And assuming she heartlessly and immediately slammed the phone down, grabbed her go bag, she's able to get to the airport, hop on a flight, and get to Providence from her home in Georgetown, Washington, D.C. in just over an hour and a half. Now, here's the thing. The actual flight time from point A to point B here is in fact only an hour and a quarter. So, I think we need to call out a new and undisclosed factor that we never see in these episodes. And this is the FBI's travel division.
I think they have something. They have to.
Yep.
At this point.
These unsung heroes are able to, at the drop of a button, get the logistics in action such that our investigators can be exactly where they need to be in the absolute shortest time possible. And Mike, I would like to see that show.
I think so too. That would be a fantastic show. It's kind of like you're the EMTs waiting for a call, or you're the fire station waiting for a call. And a little
24/7
X-Files alarm goes off every time Mulder and Scully need you.
They clearly owe Scully one, because this isn't even a case. This is, I just got to get to Providence because my partner's in trouble. Yeah. And who's our mythical, figure that's in charge of the X-Files travel agency? Lucy? I'm going to say it's Lucy. Lucy at Travel.
Yep.
Call her up. She's like, don't worry, Dana. I got you covered.
I got you back.
Be at Dulles in 10 minutes. There's actually a driver who's going to be at your door in 5 minutes. Actually, it's Lucy.
I can have someone at your door in 3 minutes, 52 seconds.
I think that's probably the way it is. So all that to say, she is able to get there PDQ.
That is pretty fast.
Anyway, Scully's arriving in Rhode Island, her car squealing to a halt outside room 6 of Mulder's hotel. The door's unlocked, so she lets herself in, calling out his name. He's in the shower, but he can't get warm. He's shivering, and he's naked. Scully accurately diagnoses that he's in shock. She puts half-naked Mulder in bed with a blankie. He reports that he woke up on the floor with a pounding headache, and he doesn't remember anything. The last thing Mulder does remember was talking to Scully on a Friday. She grabs the bloody shirt. He doesn't know where his weapon is, but she finds it in his bag and finds that 2 rounds have been fired. Mulder has no memory of it. Scully wants to get Mulder to a hospital, but he needs to know now what's happening to him, especially if he's committed a crime. So he says, to hell with your diagnosis. He finds a set of keys in his bag that he does not recognize, and neither does Scully. It has the name tag of Amy on the ring.
Oh, Amy.
Do you think that's likely that anybody has a key ring with their own first name on the key ring?
Well, I will say, yeah, probably not their own. But there was a fad in the 90s, mid-90s, I would say, where you could go to Walgreens or something, and there would be a rack of, like, rainbow keychains with your name in big, bold letters.
Okay.
Obviously, that's not what this is, but
No.
it's kind of believable. I mean, she's a little obsessed with
You're
herself, but
A little bit.
yeah.
I'm surprised it doesn't say abductee on the key ring.
Abductee.
Scully discovers that Mulder has checked in alone on Saturday afternoon. He drove in. Scully finds the car. It has blood on the steering wheel.
Ooh.
Inside, Scully finds the registration for the car. It belongs to David Cassandra of 3106 Quilchena Avenue in Providence, Rhode Island. And despite Scully's protestations to check him out, Mulder's sides press on as they want to find out where or who David Cassandra is. Meanwhile, somewhere else, the camera tracks over a living room. Pictures spread everywhere, the faces of someone cut out in every one. Eventually, the camera settles on a man, cutting out his face, somebody's face, on a picture. His expression is manic, frenzied, as a drop of blood tracks down his forehead. Mike, he is not okay.
He is not okay. He is fiercely cutting out his faces on those photos.
Yeah. But we need to get him in now because he will be a plot point later.
And you will arguably forget his face by the time he shows up again.
Well, Mulder knocks on the door of a house, 3106 Quilchena Avenue. After a few seconds of not getting an answer, Mulder goes to try the key in the lock of the door, but it's opened by a young woman. Mulder asks for Amy, but that's not her. She is the housekeeper. Amy and David are not here, and the housekeeper doesn't know where they are. Mulder spots a painting and walks in to look at it. The picture was painted by Amy, and Mulder knows the house. The housekeeper says it's the house that Amy grew up in, and weirdly, it's the only thing that Amy paints, as the housekeeper opens up the door to the studio, revealing dozens of paintings of the house. When the housekeeper tells them where it is, Mulder reveals that he already knows that location.
Oh, yeah.
His parents had a summer house out there when he was a kid.
Quantic.
I call bullshit on all of this.
Right. What are the chances?
I mean, first of all, it's the only thing she paints.
Right. That is a good painting.
You better be good at it by that point. But
Right.
like, this is too weird. What? The only thing she paints is the house.
I mean, obviously, it's the one thing that gets them to where they need to go, but
but why not just that one place? Like, why the whole plot diversion of, oh yeah, she's an award-winning painter, but they don't say that, thankfully. But the only thing she paints is the house. Can you imagine David in that relationship?
yeah.
Honey, I was thinking of a gift we might give our friends of a painting, but here's the thing. Do you think you could do something just a little bit different?
They want a different house. Please.
How about their house?
No, I refuse.
It's not part of my aesthetic.
They're just trying to paint her as having a severe psychosis, kind of like face cut guy. I don't know if it really means anything, but yeah, I think there's kind of a connection between what they're doing to themselves and their obsessions. Like he's obsessed with cutting his faces out of pictures, and she's obsessed with painting this house, of course.
Of course. And we don't know anything about David Cassandra's messed upness. I mean,
No.
he's probably got some issues.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Well, we'll see where this goes. The camera does an excellent transition from one of the paintings to the house in real life, with Mulder and Scully's car pulling up in front. However, as the agents tour the house, they see that it's fallen into disrepair. Suddenly, Mulder has a pain in his temple, falling to the ground and having a vision. Again, the grainy, out-of-sync imagery, as Mulder sees the argument between the man and the woman. The man sees Mulder, now a younger version of himself, and not played by the same actor, I might add, from previous episodes. But anyway, I digress. The man closes the door to the living room. Mulder looks to the side and sees a shadowy man smoking a cigarette. "You are a little spy," says the cigarette-smoking man, and Mulder emerges from his vision, Scully looking over him, concerned. This time, Mulder is able to report what he saw in his vision. Scully tries to make sense of his symptoms and basically assumes he had a stroke. But Mulder feels really good right now.
I'm
so
good.
No need to go to the hospital.
All right, Mulder, we get it. You're determined.
You're determined. This is classic Mulder. He dismisses Scully's very reasonable suggestions to go to a hospital. Instead, he breaks into the painting house and the two look around. Mulder thinks he's been here before. In his childhood, maybe, or maybe recently. He goes to check upstairs as Scully checks on the ground floor. Furniture is covered with sheets. Finding something, she calls for Mulder, and the two see the body of a woman with a gunshot wound to the heart.
Yikes.
Scully rightly assumes this is Amy Cassandra, and her husband is across the room, also shot to death. Scully is looking very ominously at Mulder as we fade to commercial.
Oh, Mulder,
Right.
what have you got yourself into now?
So the plot is very specifically painting a brush onto Mulder as the
Whoa.
culprit here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, they want us to believe, since he has blood all over him in the beginning, and these two people have been murdered, that he did it. And he drove their car to his apartment or his hotel.
Yeah.
So it is worth noting, not that anyone knows, or excuse me, doesn't know, the young Bill Mulder is played by Dean Aylesworth. Same, we've seen him before. And the young CSM played by Chris Owens. So he has
that's a
officially
nice, touch
become, along with Musings of a Cigarette Smoking Man, he will be the young CSM.
But the camera work in this is very vague. Like you do not get a good look at him.
Not a good look.
I think they're saving him for Spender later
Yeah,
on, and
definitely.
they don't want to blow that load yet. Well, I'm going to bring up a point now, and I'm going to talk about it later more. And that is the issue of Mulder's culpability in these deaths. And the episode will go to great lengths to exonerate him as the killer. But big picture, I think Mulder's pretty responsible for what's happened here. Like, it's his gun that he brought to a murder-suicide and got drugged up, with his memory regression thing. Like, I don't think that's very cool.
Yeah.
People died as a result of
The fact that he
pretty
had a
out
gun.
there experimentation.
Right. At a minimum, he'd probably get accessories somehow.
Then where's the family of the Cassandras that are suing the pants off the FBI?
Right.
For, what has happened here?
Well, see, that doesn't happen in the X-Files. Things just happen in little cocoons of time and space. There is no actual repercussion.
No. I mean, this is an episode, and we've seen worse. Like I forget the episode we reviewed where it's like, oh, he's 100% going to jail.
Right.
The shit he's pulled in this.
Well, when Paper Hearts, when he got a predator out of prison.
Yeah. And that guy dies. I mean, oof.
Dies after abducting a kid.
Yeah. So this is not that bad, but it's pretty bad. Like these are innocent people ultimately.
At what
Not
point
a
do you
convicted
fire
death row
Mulder?
guy. Yeah. But no, we're going to just walk past that. So moving on. After the commercial, the house is a crime scene with lots of cops and forensic personnel combing the scene. Curiously, Mulder is not in handcuffs, but he is sitting in the back of a police cruiser, so he's kind of a suspect. Scully comes over to ask him some questions. She does not believe that he's gotten a part of this because, they've been through some shit together, despite all this evidence. And, Mulder suggests to Scully that he maybe is responsible because of all the things they list off. A detective comes over, Detective Curtis, who calmly and subtly indicates that he does not believe a word of Mulder's completely truthful statement about having no memory of meeting or killing Amy and David Cassandra. Scully suggests that instead of the station, Mulder should go to the hospital to get checked out. And meanwhile, Scully is going to go check on these bodies. So we cut to an autopsy. The Rhode Island medical examiner is beginning, and Scully discovers a little puncture wound in the head, pulling out some debris and looking in the hole. She wants the ME to conduct some more tests to find out not just how they died, but why.
Mm-hmm. Who's the medical examiner?
Is that Dr. Phil?
No, that is Andrew Johnston. And he was
Do
also
we see him in
Colonel
Jersey Devil?
He was in close. Colonel Budahas from Deep Throat, the second episode. And he was also Barry Weiss, the guy who gets killed by the bounty hunter and thrown in the back of a car in Colony.
Right.
And
right.
the detective, J. Occavone, maybe Italian, I don't know. Detective Curtis, he will become Duffy Haskell in season 8. He'll be back for 2 episodes.
They won't even put a mustache
No
on.
mustache.
It's so far away. Yeah. Meanwhile, Curtis comes to visit Mulder. Mulder has not remembered anything new. Curtis bangs on Mulder's theory a bit, producing a paper bag of new evidence that might contradict Mulder's lack of story. Curtis begins to paint a picture that the Cassandras were killed with Mulder's gun, execution style. Mulder opens the bag, pulling out his own bloody shirt. I mean, this is not an amazing reveal, right? Because, he's seen this shirt before.
Let me show you something. You were just wearing it. Try that out for size.
This is my evidence. Yeah. Well, Curtis reveals that there are 2 blood stains, 2 different blood types, Amy and David's, and they're on his shirt, which Mulder confirms is, in fact, his. Mulder asks about the fingerprints, but instead of continuing a collegial conversation, Curtis elects to read Mulder his rights as the camera tracks into Mulder's face, and we cut to Mulder being escorted to a jail cell in his orange jumpsuit. And Mike, I'm going to posit to you that if there was 10 seconds more dialogue of Curtis saying, yeah, we haven't bothered to do prints, or we haven't got to the prints yet, that would be a plot hole. But he is just like, nah, I got all I need to get you.
Right. I like the tension of the scene. I do like that. Obviously, Curtis doesn't believe him. Mulder doesn't have answers. He's in a bind. But that transition into the rights, I'm like, that was pretty badass.
It was definitely badass. I mean, Curtis must have felt like $1 million in that moment.
I got him.
I got this guy.
DA's going to love me.
Rights. But, I mean, not going to spoil it for people by saying that Mulder didn't do it.
We've already done that.
Yeah, exactly. The reveal is that it's a murder-suicide. So the most basic fingerprint analysis on that gun is going to show that,
right,
or gunshot residue for that matter, is going to show that Mulder did not pull the trigger on this gun. And they are not doing that. It is pretty loose.
It is loose. You could argue that Mulder locking himself in the bathroom and showering would nullify the GSR, but
on him, but he did not pull the trigger. He
was there.
He was there, but the gunshot residue would be clearly on the shot puller, which is either Emmy or David, and their fingerprints would be on the gun as well. Mm-hmm. So, there's enough evidence there to suggest that Mulder wasn't the one who pulled the trigger on it. Well, but they just do not go there yet.
I would direct you to some true crime documentaries that highlight the ineptness of many, many local detectives and police departments.
True.
That makes it much more believable, Andrew.
It does. Certainly does. I guess who I'm pointing the finger at here is Scully, overlooking this pretty obvious out, because she's doing everything else. She's like, I want a craniotomy on this guy, but do not look for fingerprints on that
Absolutely do not test his fingerprints. And I don't give a shit what kind of GSR you've got.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm looking for.
That is so suspect. But the craniotomy, though, that's going to tell us some things. Well, Scully is still on Mulder's side. There's no definitive evidence that Mulder held the gun that fired the killing shot. So, I mean, there's something. Scully laments that Curtis is jailing an innocent man, and I love Curtis's response.
Yeah, well, this way he won't get lost for 2 days and do something else he won't remember.
Burn.
Burn, sick burn.
Oh, that was uncalled for, dude.
Ooh, it's not wrong, though. I mean, I actually say yes to this choice.
Oh, yeah. You would definitely want to lock him up for at least the night.
I forgot to mention Scully arrived. She confronted Detective Curtis and suggested there's some evidence he'll want to consider that casts doubt on Mulder's involvement in this crime, i.e. the toxicology report that revealed the presence of ketamine, a drug which can cause hallucinations. She's also confirmed that there are traces of this drug in Mulder's system, and she suggests that the drug could explain the memory loss, but Curtis doesn't buy any of it. In fact, he says it actually supports the idea that Mulder went crazy during the hallucinations and killed people. So, nice one, Scully.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't really do him any favors.
Oh, no.
Ketamine's in your system, so you're not really guilty, but you still could have done it.
So you're a drug user, you're saying. All right.
So, Andrew, what happens in the next scene?
Some guy killed himself for no particular reason.
Yep, pretty much.
Oh, would you like more?
No, this is the guy who had a random shot in the middle of the opening here, cutting out faces from his pictures. And you probably didn't recognize him, and you probably forgot about that plot point by this point.
It happened so quickly. When this happened, I mean, how the shot lingers on.
Mm-hmm.
They take Mulder to the cells, and then it keeps on going with that policeman walking by. And like, okay, we're going to get a little something more. There's going to be something nefarious that happens. But no, it takes this weird left turn where we see it's the spooky man who was cutting out the faces from the photos. He produces yet another photograph, and we see 3 women, a 4th body, the face has been cutting out. They're all sharing a good time. And the man's expression turns grave as he pulls out his service pistol. We cut to Scully walking away as a shot cracks out in the background. Back in the cells, we see the body of the suicide, and Scully pulls up. I'm a doctor. She pronounces him dead. Investigating, she sees another puncture wound, as we've seen on Amy's body. Oh, now we've got a pattern of 2, so clearly something is afoot. Is it enough?
I wish this guy did something else. The convenience of Scully being at the police department while Mulder's getting booked for having gone through the same procedure and being involved in a double murder.
Mm-hmm.
It's just too convenient. Make this guy across town or something.
This is what in the trade we call a stretch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything just lines up. She's there to notice everything. He's got a hole in his head, just like Amy did.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, and he's an abductee.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Take it out of the precinct. Take it out.
He does not have to be an officer.
Right.
None of this requires him to be an officer.
Right. It's just too convenient. Yeah. They had no time to take him somewhere else.
We cannot do a 5th location in this show. Do you know how much money we're going to spend in Gethsemane?
For the love of God.
The budget is 0.
We're still recovering from space.
we are still paying off the set from space. If we can use that set again for anything, we'll be ahead of the game.
Oh, man.
All right. We're going to cut to the officer's residence. Scully and Curtis are searching it, quickly coming across the photographs with faces cut out. Curtis reveals that this officer had been assigned to desk duty. Apparently, the officer believed in extraterrestrials and stuff like that. Curtis doesn't know what to make of the cutout photos, but Scully's going to try and figure it out. She thinks that this officer was legitimately traumatized by the stories. Scully finds the smoking gun, a copy of Abductee magazine.
This is it. Oh, yeah. Well, that explains everything.
I love how there's a magazine for everything.
Oh, yeah.
It makes total sense that there's an abductee and like with the cover story of Amy Cassandra.
Right.
I mean, that is just too perfect.
Abductee Illustrated.
Yeah. So is there a centerfold?
As she's getting lifted into the sky.
Beamed away.
Oh, that's good.
Scully thinks the officer's suicide is linked to Amy Cassandra's death. Not a stretch at all, Scully. As they both had injection sites on their foreheads. Ooh, well, actually, not injection sites. I should be more specific.
Holes.
Little tiny holes. This will come back. All right. Back in the cells, young Mulder has another flashback. Mulder? No, that's not right. I'm going to say that again. Back in the cells, Mulder has another flashback vision, this time as young Mulder seeing the two older men fighting. He climbs the stairs to the loft, looks down, his mother beating on the chest of one of the men. Not Samantha, not Samantha. At the end of the flashback, the name Amy is screamed out. Mulder awakens and begins screaming for a guard's attention as we cut to commercial. Probably for sleepy drugs, sleep easy, or no doze nose. Well, I don't know what you get.
Are you haunted by memories of your past?
Would you like a good night's sleep?
Would you like to get knocked out for a good 12 hours?
Are your neighbors screaming at all hours of the night for their partner?
Have you been wrongfully accused of a murder-suicide?
Just sleep your way through it with our proven formula.
Take a power drill to your forehead. Just insert it right along your hairline. Don't go too far.
Don't turn it into a lobotomy.
Just a lot of people just dead with drills to their heads.
It was a fad. Everyone wanted to do it in the 90s. Crazy. After the commercial, Curtis escorts Scully to Mulder. Mulder was screaming the whole night, wanting to talk to Scully. The pair are reunited. Mulder announces that he didn't kill Amy and David, and Scully thinks she has seen enough evidence to get the charges dropped. In fact, Curtis is prepared to announce to the press that the deaths were a result of a murder-suicide. Aha! We have finally come to this point.
Curtis is a good guy now.
And yeah, he's on their side.
Yep.
I heard you didn't get much sleep.
I didn't kill those people, Scully.
I know that. And I think I've gathered enough proof and evidence of your innocence to get you out of here.
From where?
The forensics reports. The shirt that you were wearing did have the victim's blood on it. But the blood splatter pattern doesn't match the point of entry detail. In fact, Detective Curtis and his team have been able to put together enough contradictory evidence to make a statement to the press saying that the Cassandra's death was as a result of a murder-suicide.
But I was there.
Yes.
And I still don't remember why.
I think I have an idea about that, too. Amy Cassandra believed that she was an alien abductee.
And I contacted her.
Yes, apparently. According to an article I read on Amy, she had begun psychiatric treatment that was effectively recovering her past. The repetitive behavior exhibited in those paintings that we saw was an expression of that treatment.
But why shoot herself and her husband?
I can't say definitively, but judging from an almost identical suicide of a police officer who was receiving the same psychiatric care, I believe that the victims were suffering from something called Waxman-Geschwin syndrome, the symptoms of which are trance-like states leading to vivid dreams about the past, dreams that are more detailed than the conscious mind can recall. It's also called Dostoevsky syndrome because the Russian novelist was suffering from it too.
What was I doing there, Scully, and why didn't I do anything to stop it?
I can't explain that. I've arranged for your arraignment in 1 hour. I think that by then Detective Curtis and I will have gathered enough forensics data that you'll be released.
I still need to know why, though.
So with that, we cut to Warwick, Rhode Island, with Scully and Mulder's car arriving at the office of a psychologist who treated Amy Cassandra. Mulder finds his car, and Scully deftly notes it's been here for a few days. Mm-hmm. Inside, the agents meet with Dr. Goldstein, who notes that he's never met Mulder before. He describes his treatment of Amy Cassandra and his sadness upon learning of her death. He goes on to describe his aggressive treatment. He uses a therapy that simulates electric impulses in the brain, using light and sound, unconventional but not invasive. Scully asks if Goldstein treated the police officer Michael Vazekas, and Goldstein confirms he did. Scully reveals that Michael just shot himself last night, to Goldstein's shock. Mulder becomes incredulous with Goldstein's responses as he professes ignorance, and the two agents leave. So what did you think of Goldstein when you saw him here?
I think he's a liar.
He's a liar.
He didn't fool anyone.
Not with that. Well, I've never met you before in my life.
I'm an old man with nice hair.
You can't interrogate me.
I won't stand for this as I stand for this.
For this. Outside in the hall, Mulder reveals that he has met Goldstein before. Goldstein lied about not knowing Mulder. Scully thinks it's more than that. That Goldstein treated the three of them with ketamine and that Mulder's blackouts are the result. Just then, Scully asks why Mulder would do something this crazy. And as if on cue, he has another painful vision. Scully's face briefly becoming the woman's from his flashbacks, but it's over just as quickly as it began, and he's soon himself again. Despite the fifth time we've had this from Scully, she's not going to have any effect. He's going to keep on going, revealing that he doesn't want these symptoms to go away. The treatment is allowing him to access his memories. He wants the keys. He wants to go to his mother's house in Greenwich. Scully reluctantly agrees, but she says she's driving.
That's another thing about this episode. Well, I guess I'll save it for final thoughts. But the fact that she could have many times driven him to the hospital when she is in full control of that car.
Scully, why are we pulling up the? Scully,
you bitch!
I am not driving us another step until you get a friggin' MRI.
It would just devolve into that scene from The Office where Michael takes Meredith, unbeknownst to her, to AA to be dropped off. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. It was funny, though.
Well, at Mrs. Mulder's house, she sees them pulls up, opens the doors, Mulder barges on in. He accuses her of keeping secrets from him, that he's remembering things. He suggests that it wasn't, in fact, a choice that she was able to make.
You had some kind of relationship with him.
Who?
You know who. The man who worked with my father. The man who came to you that night when I was 12 and forced you to choose Samantha.
Oh, Fox.
Yes! You betrayed my father, your husband.
Never.
How far back did it go?
How dare you? How dare you come here and accuse me?
Who is my father?
What do you want? To kill him again?
Just answer the question, Mom. Just answer the question!
I am your mother, and I will not tolerate any more of your questions. You're bleeding, Fox.
This poor woman.
They never have a nice moment.
Only when she's dying does he have a nice moment.
Where's their dinner party?
Poor Mulder.
Yeah. Well, she storms away. She goes upstairs in a huff. Scully comes back to check on Mulder, but he's pulled a runner, exiting out the screen door and stealing the car, stranding Scully with an angry 58-year-old. And we cut to commercial. I gotta tell you at this point, this episode's kind of losing me a bit. But
did he jump out the window?
He doesn't really jump out the window. He kind of slides out the window.
Did I miss that?
I mean, why not? I just feel like she probably has the keys in her pocket. Why did she leave them in the car?
She must have.
She did, I guess. She's just not a good car owning person. All right, I'm just going to roll on.
Well, I mean, it's not her car. It is a rental. So who gives a shit, right?
Okay, there's that. I'll give you that. All right, we're back. It's nighttime on the street, 9:25 p.m. to be exact. Dr. Goldstein goes to his car, putting something in the trunk as Mulder pulls up. He confronts Goldstein, asking him what he did. Goldstein professes his innocence, and then it's out. Previous Mulder had asked him to do it, and Goldstein complied. Now Mulder wants him to finish the job. So he's going to do it. We cut to Goldstein's office. Goldstein is now wearing his lab coat because if you're not wearing the lab coat, Mike,
not wearing
a real doctor.
No, not at all.
Goldstein fills a syringe with a drug, ketamine. You know, he's going to do this thing. And I mean, Mulder is just stupid for letting it happen. But anyway, he injects Mulder and lets Mulder lie down, and then puts special headphones and eyewear on Mulder's head.
That looks like
The headwear floods Mulder's senses with light and sound, and Mulder begins to have his flashbacks, though it takes a terrible toll on his body as he thrashes in the recliner. Goldstein looks on and restrains Mulder's arms. In the flashback, the abduction scenario plays out as memories jumble together. Meanwhile, Goldstein assembles a drill and turns it on, bringing it close to Mulder's forehead. The drill gets closer and closer as we smash cut to police cars, red and blues, flashing, tires squealing to a halt. The cavalry has arrived. Inside, Goldstein has taken off his latex gloves Hearing his door being smashed in, the police enter, Curtis leading the charge. Goldstein is put under arrest. For what? I'm going to ask. But anyway, not important. We never see Goldstein
It's up to Scully. I'm sure she knows. She's like, Mulder's here. This guy's up to no good.
Charges will be filed later.
Mm-hmm.
But Mulder's not here. And Goldstein does not reply as Curtis asks where Mulder went. Outside, Curtis confirms that Mulder left, but Goldstein is not talking. Scully takes charge of the field interrogation, her face jammed up next to Goldstein's, demanding to know if he treated Mulder. Goldstein confirms that he did, but he doesn't know where Mulder went. And when asks, goodness, I need to get to the end of this. When asked, he says to Scully that the last thing that Mulder said was that he was going to exorcise his demons, something that no one ever says. I don't care who you are.
I'm going to
go exercise my demons. I mean, that is... I'm sorry, RW. I love your direction. This is not good.
Even Mulder probably would not say that.
No, exactly.
As dramatic as he is.
Why not just, I'm going home? I'm all drugged up. If he says I'm going home, then, well, I guess he might go to his mom's place. I'm going to Quanah. Oh, this would be great. If he said, Goldstein, what was the last thing he said? And Goldstein says, he said he was going to Quanah.
What is it? It's
Exactly.
spelled really weird. I can't really pronounce it.
And then you'd have that look on Scully's face. Quanah. Well, we cut there. Quanah, Rhode Island. It's pitch black. As the camera pans to show police officers surrounding the house. Scully arrives. Speaking with the detective on scene, the light is on in the house and somebody's inside. Scully lets them in on Mulder's condition. Tells them not to shoot if Mulder should flee. She's going in. Which I argue, no self-respecting police force would let happen.
Yeah. I mean, she's FBI, so she pulled rank, right?
I suppose, but I'd see them pulling rank right back. Oh, he's got a gun, does he? And he's on drugs? No, I don't care if you're a partner. I'm going to send a SWAT team in. You can be behind the SWAT team, but no. That's going to be on my watch when you get shot to death at the end of the episode.
So did you do the time?
I did not. Could you look that up for me real quick?
I'll see.
I'm sure I would harp on that.
Can I ask how it was spelled? Oh, okay. So it's not that far. I did Rhode Island to Quanah.
It's in Rhode Island.
Yeah. So
but she'd have to take the ferry because that's on the island, I think.
It says 36 minutes and it looks like a driving. So
that's pretty reasonable.
That's
actually.
reasonable.
I can see it happening. Yeah. Well, at the house, Scully slowly lets herself in and walks to the main room, the door squeaking open as she walks through the dimly lit house. She calls out for Mulder, who asks to be left alone. He's in another room in a trance-like state, having his visions, trying to remember. In his head, scenes of the abduction are playing out. He holds a gun dangerously close, but he grunts with almost pleasure. It's all falling into place. He points the gun at Scully, telling her to stay away. She tries to convince him that the drug is a powerful hallucinogen, that he can't know if the memories are real. She asks him to let it go. Outside, we hear shots being fired. The police launch into action, rushing towards the house. Inside, we see Mulder firing his gun over and over. Has he shot Scully, Mike?
Yes.
But the camera tracks up, and we see that she is in fact behind him. He's just fired at the wall or a nasty lamp or something. He crumples to the floor, and she comforts him. Minutes seem to pass as the police distinctly do not burst into the cottage. We fade to the epilogue, with Scully writing up her notes. No permanent physical damage, but she thinks the experience will have a lasting effect. Blah, blah, blah. She's worried about Mulder, and he's driving more dangerously forward in impossible pursuit. End of episode. Mike, discuss.
It has a lot that I like. Cat and mouse game of when is Curtis going to come around, and convince or be convinced that Mulder's innocent. It's superfluous because we all know he's innocent and we want to kind of get on with the story. But I do like Curtis. I think he's a good character, good actor.
Mm-hmm.
As we were talking about earlier, the bearing on the show isn't really there, although the imagery at the end of Mulder's last kind of freak out shows a lot of Samantha and young CSM and paints a picture of he's got something to do with her. You know, is she his daughter? So it's interesting, but there's a lot that really kind of derails the episode.
I would totally agree with that.
Yeah, it's an okay episode. I don't hate it. Just not enough for me to like, oh, I want to watch Demons tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I like the format as a departure from the regular X-Files episode where it's like, you know, they get a tip and they got to go off and do a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It shares similar notes with Zero Sum. How did we get here? Why are things happening?
Yep.
And we have to go back to review the events of the past to figure out how the present makes sense. But I've got a huge issue with the central premise that Mulder would believe a drug like ketamine would be effective in helping him recover a missing memory.
Right.
Surely he'd know that it's got these hallucinogenic properties that would make any recovered memory suspect. And frankly, what's he going to learn that he doesn't already know?
Mm-hmm.
So I question the premise that launches this whole thing into action. I mean, I get that they're just sort of saying, look, this happened. And, you know, he's got to figure out why it happened. But, you know, if you sort of pull back the curtain as to why this episode is happening, I question it. And frankly, the fallout from this episode, like, this is a career ruiner. The idea that he as an agent would do this on his off time. Like, where are the ramifications for this?
Right.
Where's the conversation with Skinner saying, you did what now?
Right.
And 2 people died as the result of this.
When does he become just a liability?
Yeah, that is, you're going to the slow horses department of the FBI or whatever. Because, and again, there is no ramification for this. And it just bothers me, which is why I kind of pass over this episode as, yeah, I kind of don't believe it happens because it doesn't advance the plot at all. There's no revelation. They skirt around the edges of Mrs. Mulder's infidelity and they don't really confirm anything. So it's like nothing of substance happened in this episode anyway. So why bother having watched it?
It's just
And then we get
weird, spooky ride, I guess.
I think so. It's a neat premise. Maybe they had some B-roll footage of young Samantha they wanted to use. They're like, hey, you know, when we shot the abduction stuff, we did all this cool thing of Samantha talking to the camera. We could probably throw it in here, but
yeah.
And the bait and switch at the end with Mulder shooting his gun. I mean, that alone, like, you get your gun taken away from you when you pull shit like that.
Right. Can you explain why you have a completely discharged clip? No? Okay. You're fired.
You're fired. I hope you have fun in your new career.
I'll take your gun and your badge.
Yeah.
And just see the people in that nice wheelchair over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing, and this is completely kind of looking at it from the future, the only redemptive quality, I guess, of this episode is that it helps explain the next episode a little bit.
Sure.
I'm not saying it's like that's what they were doing. And that doesn't really absolve this episode of any wrongdoing. It's just, okay, it kind of fits after you watch the next episode, Gethsemane, where we see how far he'll go at this point. He is so desperate and his world is kind of crashing around. So him taking steps in the next episode feels a little bit more believable because of this episode and what he did to his head. But that's a reach.
It is a bit of a reach. And I would argue that they tacked on Scully's note-taking epilogue, A, because they didn't have enough runtime and they needed to pad it out to 42 minutes. But B, also to make that bridge to set up the next episode.
Right.
Because I don't think that there's anything she says in there that is crucial to wrapping up the episode other than he'll be just fine, ladies and gentlemen, and he'll be around for our next episode.
You see the cursor on the screen. Tune in next week for the next adventure. Mulder's fine.
He's fine, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, I noted that too when we get to the end of Demons, that it does set it up a bit for what we're going to see in Gethsemane.
And I do think that's giving it too much credit. I don't think that's what they were doing. Looking back on it from 30 years, that's kind of where I'm like, okay, well, that kind of works. But it's still a hard episode in terms of substance.
I would agree with that totally.
So,
yeah.
What do you say we go to listener comments, sir?
Let's. And we've got one. So would you like to read the comment from Emily Messenger?
Emily Messenger says, ugh. Aside from the couple of shipper moments, I really dislike this episode. My biggest beef is that Scully is actively dying and Mulder's on a full-blown paranoid binge that is dragging her across the eastern seaboard, at record speeds no less. And he's so all up in his feelings that, as always, he doesn't give a shit about anything but his quest. No, I don't understand it. And yes, he's absolutely insane. And that is, of course, referring to my prompting questions. Does anyone really understand this? And Mulder really is nuts, isn't
he? Yeah. So, point of order, Your Honor, we're all actively dying. But I appreciate what Emily is saying here, in that she's the one with the ongoing crisis. But
right. Here she is tending to
I think
him.
we have established time and time again with Scully that she cares about Mulder, because he gives her strength to keep going. So when he's got a crisis, she's going to be there. I'm okay with that. I don't think we needed to have a check-in moment with her cancer in this episode.
Thank God.
Every freaking episode's about cancer, but I get the point. And I didn't like the episode either from, a lot of the aspects that Emily has mentioned.
Yeah.
Far and beyond the travel shenanigans, but yes, absolutely. And thank you, Emily, for that insightful comment.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's the episode, Andrew.
I think the demons have been exorcised. So in our grand tradition, Mike, I would like to give you the final word on this episode.
No matter what you're trying to uncover about your past, just don't put holes in your head. This is a bad idea.
And do drugs. Don't do drugs.
Don't do drugs. Try to be, ketamine, we all know what it did to Matthew Perry. So let's be a little careful here. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please rate and review on your podcast app of choice. Andrew and I would be eternally grateful to you fine people for helping us expand and get the word out. Also, we've got a killer group on Facebook. Feel free to join in on the discussion at facebook.com/groups/thisisnothappeningpod and become an official member of the syndicate. We do polls and we have questions for every episode to give you guys the opportunity to chime in and possibly let your voice be heard on our recordings. And please join us on our new Twitter at tinhxfilespod, no dash, to stay up to date on everything, moment to moment. Thank you, and remember, don't stop swimming.